As a 28-year-old woman, I never thought I would find myself in the midst of a situation as complicated and emotional as the one I am facing now. It all started when I married my best friend's crush at our wedding. Let me set the stage for you. My best friend, let's call her Sarah, and I have been inseparable since high school. We shared everything, from clothes and secrets to dreams and aspirations. We were the kind of friends who knew each other inside and out, or so I thought. Sarah had a crush on a guy named Mark for as long as I could remember. She would talk about him incessantly, describing his every move and gesture with starry eyes and a dreamy smile. I could tell that she was head over heels in love with him, even though she never had the courage to confess her feelings to him. When Mark and I started dating, Sarah was the first person I told. I wanted her approval and blessing, knowing how much he meant to her. To my surprise, she was incredibly supportive and happy for us. She said that if anyone deserved to be happy, it was us. Little did I know, her true feelings were buried deep beneath her facade of kindness and understanding. As our relationship with Mark blossomed, so did our friendship. Sarah and Mark grew closer, bonding over shared interests and inside jokes. I thought nothing of it at the time, believing that friends should be able to get along with each other's partners. But as our wedding day drew closer, tensions began to rise and secrets started to unravel. The first conflict arose when Sarah confided in me one night, tears streaming down her face. She confessed that she still had feelings for Mark and that seeing us together was tearing her apart. I was caught off guard, not knowing how to respond to her revelation. On one hand, I understood her pain and sympathized with her unrequited love. On the other hand, I couldn't deny the connection I had with Mark and the happiness we shared. I tried to reassure Sarah that our love was different from what she felt for Mark, that she would find someone who would love her just as much as she loved him. But deep down, I knew that my words were empty and meaningless. How could I console her when I was the one standing in the way of her happiness? As the days passed, the tension between us grew palpable. Sarah started to distance herself from me, avoiding phone calls and canceling plans at the last minute. I could sense the resentment and betrayal festering within her, poisoning our once unbreakable bond. On the day of our wedding, I saw Sarah standing alone by the edge of the dance floor, her eyes fixed on Mark as he twirled me around in a joyful dance. There was a sadness in her gaze that pierced through my heart, reminding me of the pain I had caused her. I wanted to reach out to her, to apologize for my selfishness and ask for her forgiveness. But before I could make my way to her, the unexpected happened. Mark stopped in the middle of the dance floor, turned to Sarah, and held out his hand. "May I have this dance?" he asked, his voice filled with emotion and vulnerability. Sarah hesitated for a moment, her eyes wide with shock, but then she nodded, placing her hand in his as they moved together in a bittersweet waltz. I stood there frozen in place as I watched my best friend dance with my husband on our wedding day. The scene was both beautiful and heartbreaking, a testament to the tangled web of emotions that bound us together. I could see the pain and longing in Sarah's eyes, the love and regret in Mark's. And in that moment, I knew that our lives would never be the same again. The fallout from that dance was catastrophic. Sarah and Mark's connection deepened, turning into a forbidden love that overshadowed our own marriage. They would steal glances and whispers whenever I turned my back, sharing a bond that I could never be a part of. I felt like an outsider in my own marriage, a spectator to a love story that had started long before I entered the scene. The worst part came when I overheard Sarah and Mark talking late one night. They were in our living room, their voices hushed but filled with urgency. I crept closer, trying to make out their words without being detected, and what I heard shattered me to my core. "I can't keep pretending that I don't love you," Sarah whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "I've loved you for so long, and seeing you with her is killing me." "I know, Sarah, I know," Mark replied, his voice equally strained. "But we can't do this. She's my wife now, and I made a vow to her. We have to let this go." I felt a mix of anger, betrayal, and heartache swirling within me as I listened to their conversation. How could they do this to me? How could they betray my trust and love in such a cruel and callous way? I wanted to confront them, to scream and shout and demand answers. But I knew that it was too late. The damage had been done, irreparable and irreversible. As I lay in bed that night, unable to sleep or find solace in the darkness, I wondered if I was the asshole in this twisted tale of love and betrayal. Had I been too blind to see the truth that was staring me in the face? Had I been too naive to believe that love conquers all, even when faced with impossible odds? The morning after that fateful night, I woke up to an empty house and a note on the kitchen counter. It was from Sarah, apologizing for her actions and explaining that she needed time and space to sort out her feelings. There was a sadness in her words that cut through me, reminding me of the rift that had formed between us. As I sat alone in the silence of our home, I couldn't help but feel a sense of despair and loneliness creeping in. The love triangle that had consumed us was now tearing us apart, leaving behind a trail of heartbreak and regret. And in that moment, I knew that the only way to find peace and closure was to confront the truth head-on. But as I stood up to leave the house and face the consequences of my actions, the doorbell rang, startling me out of my thoughts. I hesitated for a moment, unsure of who could be at the door at this hour. But when I opened it, I found Sarah standing on the other side, tears in her eyes and a determined look on her face. "We need to talk," she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "There are things that need to be said, truths that need to be revealed. Are you ready to face them?" I looked into her eyes, seeing the pain and vulnerability that lay beneath her facade of strength. And in that moment, I knew that our reckoning was inevitable, that the time had come for us to confront our demons and lay bare our hearts. And so, as Sarah and I stood face to face, our shared history and tangled emotions looming between us, I knew that the next chapter of our intertwined lives would be filled with difficult choices and painful truths. And as the weight of our shared secrets and unspoken words hung heavy in the air, I couldn't help but wonder, am I the asshole in this heartbreaking tale of love and betrayal? And as the final words of that question echoed in the silence of the room, Sarah and I stared at each other, on the brink of a confrontation that would change our lives forever. Update. The conversation between Sarah and I was long and emotional. We laid all our cards on the table, revealing our deepest fears, regrets, and truths. Sarah confessed that she had always harbored feelings for Mark, even before I came into the picture. She talked about the pain of watching us fall in love and get married, knowing that she had missed her chance with the man she loved. I, in turn, admitted my own faults and shortcomings in the situation. I apologized for not seeing the signs earlier, for not recognizing the depth of Sarah's feelings, and for unintentionally causing her pain. The air between us was heavy with emotion, but there was also a sense of relief in finally letting out all the pent-up emotions that had been festering for so long. As we talked, it became clear that we both had to make some tough decisions. Sarah knew that she had to distance herself from Mark in order to move on and find happiness outside of their shared past. I, on the other hand, had to confront my own insecurities and uncertainties about my marriage and the trust I had in Mark. It was a painful realization, but it was necessary for us to move forward and heal from the wounds of the past. Conclusion. In the end, Sarah and I parted ways, each carrying a burden of regret and heartache. Our once unbreakable bond was forever changed by the events that had transpired, leaving us both with scars that would take time to heal. The love triangle that had entangled us had taken its toll, leaving a trail of broken hearts and shattered dreams in its wake. As we said our goodbyes, there was a bitter taste of resentment and betrayal in the air. Sarah couldn't forgive me for marrying the man she loved, and I couldn't forget the pain of losing my best friend to a forbidden love. We both left with a sense of closure, but also with a lingering sense of animosity and hurt that would take time to dissipate. I was left wondering if I was truly the asshole in this situation, if my actions had irreparably damaged the relationships that meant so much to me. And as I reflected on the events that had transpired, I couldn't help but feel a sense of regret and sorrow for the choices I had made. In the end, love and betrayal collided in a tangled mess of emotions, leaving behind a wreckage of shattered dreams and fractured friendships that would take time to mend if they ever could.